Alright, what's going on, guys? I hope you're all excited for some Act 6 early content from the channel. And it's some awesome stuff, got some really cool gameplay, got lots to talk about, some walkthroughs, some guides on the first quest of Act 6. But before we get to any of the good stuff, I need to just get something out of the way at the start of this video. So, Kabam asked me last week to actually be a part of a small group of content creators to test, not to test, but to play Act 6 early, and to upload some content, some walkthroughs, some guides before it's officially released. And when they asked me, this was before the announcement on the forums, and they had informed me that I wouldn't be able to do a Legends run, which I was cool with because I'd be able to do one for Chapter 2, 3, and 4, which was why I'm not doing a Legends run for Chapter 1 here. Yeah, they asked me about a week ago, and this was before I knew that 4 stars would be restricted. And if they had asked me like now or like a couple of days ago, my answer might have been different. I don't know, just because with all the things going on in the community right now with regarding the restrictions. And also, I thought when I got the email from Kabam regarding this, I must have just been very excited because this was before any Act 6 stuff was even announced. So this was like I kind of knew Act 6 was coming a little bit before everyone else did. So I was really excited, and when I must have not read properly through the email because I thought I'd be getting to test all of Act 6 Chapter 1. And when I finally started to test it, I completed the first quest, and I went to do the second quest, and it was locked. I was like, wait, what? I went back, read the email. Yeah, it was only the first quest. I must have just been too excited. But, so yeah, what I wanted to say was, I have made my stance on the restrictions abundantly clear, and I sort of changed my, at first I was like, I didn't think it would be the biggest deal, and then I thought about it more, and then I heard other people's opinions, and then I actually got to test Act 6 Quest 1 myself, and testing it myself, that also changed my opinion because I got to know what it was really like. And there's a lot of there are some requirements just like for specific counters you'll need, and of course not everyone's gonna have those as 5 stars, so I think only making it 5 and 6 stars kind of sucks in there, so that also kind of changed my opinion more so. But yeah, I 100% think that 4 stars should be allowed in Act 6, and I've actually given my feedback to Kabam. I was talking to Kabam Mike himself through this whole process of testing Act 6, him and Kaylee, and I emailed Kabam Mike saying I think 4 stars should be allowed. So I've given that feedback. I just want you guys to know that. And also in the content creator basically feedback area, what I've said was that they should check out Brian's video. You guys should check it out too if you haven't already. It's a very well made video on his opinions and thoughts on Act 6, and he came up with a really great idea. Brian always has some good ideas, and it's basically what he said was that doing a first run through of Act 6 Chapter 1, once you defeat the boss basically, you can bring in your 4 stars after that. And you know, I was telling Ben, I completely agree with this. 4 stars should be allowed, and this is a great way to kind of fix this and implement them. And I was just thinking like a way that would make sense story-wise to do this, and this is what I said. I'll read it out. Like the boss was sending out a link hurting ISO-8 infused champions, and only champions strong enough to resist the signal could be used. 5 and 6 stars. And once the boss is initially taken down, the signal weakens, allowing 4 stars. So that's how they can kind of work it in story-wise. I think that makes sense. And yeah, I've given this feedback to Kabam. So at the time of making this Act 6 video, there hasn't been any developments yet regarding 4 stars being allowed. Hopefully by the time this video is out, this is old news and they've allowed 4 stars. Who knows? But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way before we get into this awesome video. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright guys, so jumping into the first quest here, I've written down my Quest 1 guide, some tips. And the first main tip is my main advice is just getting used to the no retreat node and playing around it and with it. So that's what we're going to be talking about firstly, which is the main. It's all over the first quest here. It's on every single fight. It's the global node here, no retreat, which is when the attacker dashes back, they get a degen timer for 1.2 seconds, which you don't take any degen by this. But if you dash back again, the degen timer is active and causes a passive degen, dealing 200% of the defender's attack as direct damage over 5 seconds. So when I first started playing, I was really just trying my best to get used to it, to play around it, and then the first time I took the damage, I realized it wasn't that much. You'll see I'm taking the damage here, and it's nothing crazy. It's not like I'm losing half of my health or anything, but it is noticeable. That did about 13%. So yeah, you gotta play around that. So by playing around that, that means you gotta adjust your whole play style here. So 1 dash back, and then I can't dash back again to evade the second part of her special. I have to wait for that timer to expire. So yeah, unblockable specials, you gotta be careful of those. and just parry timing, just attack timing, intercept timing. You can't dash back twice. So you got to be very careful and just mindful of that timer. It's just basically another thing to get used to in the game, you know. So that's really the first thing you just want to practice and work around, playing around. And once you get used to it, it's not too bad. You start to realize, and there are a couple other ways around this. For example, Corvus, he actually cannot die to the degen. So once you're at 1%, it doesn't matter. We have a clip of that, and we'll get to that one. Alright, the next point is scouting each path is crucial, as many different champs on each path require or would be much more favorable with a specific counter. So yeah, scouting is very important before you go in, before you do anything. Plan out which path you're going to take and which champions you're going to bring. That's what I did for every single path, and in total I used one item to get through all of this, well, each couple energy refills, because there's a lot of energy. I'll talk about that later, but yeah, I used one revive, 20% revived, and the only reason I had to use that was because I didn't bring a good counter for the boss on one of my run-throughs. And all my champs got KO'd, so I had to use one revive, and I got him down 120% revive, and that was it. So scouting is very important. So, for example, you just look at a path. This Moon Knight here, he was a big pain. Can't touch this, so you're going to want to bring someone that could counter evade to make it a lot easier. There's a Korg, so you're going to want to bring a counter for a Korg. On this path here, there's a Mephisto with Spite and some Fire of Hades. You're going to probably want to bring a Void for that because he's Incinerate immune. It can help with the power gain. This Psylocke here is a crazy power gain, so bringing a power control champion. This Sentry here has all or nothing, so again, a power control champion is needed for this path, or someone that can tank specials. So that's just what you want to do for each path. You'll really plan it out. For example, this path here has a do you bleed node, so if you start doing this path, you get 2 fights deep, you don't have a bleed champion, you're gonna have to back out because there's no other way to take down this champion. So yeah, that's the second important tip. Alright guys, so first I wanted to talk about what I said about Corvus and how he basically negate the node by staying at 1% health. So this is the Domino fight, and my Corvus is at 4 health, so you guys are going to see how Corvus works really with the whole degen encounter. And yeah, so basically I just start dashing back, I start degenning, and as you can see I don't die. So yeah, a way to kind of cheese the node, get around it. There's probably some other ways to get around it too. I don't really look too hard in cheesing it, because honestly once you start fighting with the node, and you really get used to how you bait specials, just how you play around it, it's really not too bad. And really that's the worst thing, is baiting special attacks. Once you get a good way on how to do that, it's not too bad. And sometimes AI can just be a bit of a ding dong and just not throw it, which could be super duper annoying. But for the most part, you can get the specials out of them. You just kind of gotta, just how you always bait special, you know, let your block down, let it open, and try to get the opportunity without dashing back twice. Sometimes you just have to parry a lot to keep them at bay. But yeah, the Corvus fight here, I'm about to run out of charges, so at that point I'm pretty well dead. I think I die right here anyways. I tried to evade it, and I'm pretty sure she shut off my dexterity. So yeah, this next fight here is why you need a bleed champion. So up here, you know, we said that you require a bleeder, and this node has do you bleed, which requires which the defender only takes damage from bleeds. You can see all my basic attacks are doing 0 damage, so just bleeding. And Corvus, or sorry, not Corvus, Blade, he's pretty good for this fight. He's good for a lot of fights in this quest because he can just parry so much. You can just get parry bleeds on this fight specifically because of how important bleeds are, and just on many fights because instead of dashing back a lot, you can just parry specials instead, and parrying specials with Blade causes the opponent to bleed. So you can really just get a lot of bleeds off that way, and yeah, Blade, that's why Blade is just so good in this first quest here. Also, of course, Blade's regen is amazing, you know, it's Blade. So while you're taking special block damage or anything like that, you're bleeding the opponent, which is giving you more power, more healing. So yeah, Blade is just really good in this quest all around. There's also a lot of good fights where he can get Danger Sense, so as long as you have the Ghost Rider synergy and maybe the Mephisto or the Dormammu synergy, he can be really good. So as you can see, this Hawkeye fight, it's not too bad. It's a little annoying, it's taking a little while, because, you know, if we could get Danger Sense with Blade, this fight would be a little bit better, but don't have Danger Sense or anything, so it's just a long fight. Just gotta stack up as many bleeds as possible, parry the opponent as much as possible, but at least with Blade, you know, all the parries cause more bleeds, and all the bleeds cause more power, so that means more specials to get more bleeds. So just really keep stacking it up, and we're about 100 hits deep. He's almost down here. As you can see, I don't think I've gotten the degenerated on myself once. Really just parrying a lot, and yeah, just getting used to it. I did this fight this was one of my first paths, so I was really blocking, trying to parry a lot. As I played more and more, I found myself more comfortable dashing back and trying to dex more and more, play around the timer. You really just got to get used to it. I kind of thought of it as like kind of playing Ghost, getting used to her phase times. This next fight here on the list, it's for acquiring a power control champ or a form of invulnerability. That's because this Psylocke here she gets a lot of power. You don't need a power control champ for this fight necessarily, but it really helps. Her power gain is doubled, so that's pretty annoying. But there is some all or nothing fights. There's two of them, I believe. It's Sentry and Sim Supreme. The Sentry one's a little boring, so I didn't show that one, but I'm going to show the Sim Supreme one. And yeah, you guys can see why a power control champ or some form of invulnerability will be needed for that. So like a Luke Cage could work, because you can just take some specials. An Iceman would work with his ice armor. You could go that route. But just some form of surviving L3s. So yeah, because the power can get crazy. But Vision, he's pretty good all around. He's also good for the boss. I'm not going to be talking too much about the boss in this video. I believe I'm going to make a separate video talking about the boss specifically. But yeah, Vision, man, he's a great champ. You know, if you can control the opponent's power, you don't have to worry about baiting specials. And that just makes playing around the whole no retreat node much easier. So yeah, it's pretty nice there. And this Psylocke is going down pretty quick. The good thing about Psylocke is when you take away her charge thingies, you get a little bit of power gain, so OG Vision can really stack up that power, which is pretty nice. Yeah, next fight here is the Symbiote Supreme, and on this one, it's the all or nothing. So yeah, we brought in Stark Spidey for some power control here on this one. And you know, Sim Supreme, he's a little weird to fight. His animation, they're a little funky. So playing around the no retreat node was a little weird on this one. Wasn't too comfortable with it, but you know, I'm Stark Spidey, trying to maybe throw in some intercepting, get around it. And I also have my power drain on my medium, or sorry, on my heavy attack if I need it. So I always have that for backup. And yeah, this fight, it goes all right. The only thing about Stark Spidey here is this was again one of my more earlier paths, and I wasn't building really any poise. You can build poise, it's just not as easy. You kind of got to be very careful with it. But here he finally throws his special. Luckily we auto evade all of that. That's why Stark Spidey is really great in here as well, because of the auto evasion. But yeah, on to the next fight. Alright, so the next node here is an Abomination, and I put on here that you need a poison immune and someone who has also gained the Fury buff. For this one, you don't need the Fury buff. This is a Caustic Temper. You'll just need a poison champion, and Omega Red is great for this. Omega Red is all around pretty solid for this quest. I only used him on mainly immunity counters, but he can be good on many of the fights. So yeah, definitely thought of him firstly for this Abomination poison fight. And I'm also not running any suicides, so you'll see the few fights I do show with Corvus are gimped because I don't have the suicides, and here with Omega I also don't have suicides, so it's also a little gimped without those masteries. But the rest of my team, you know, Blade, Void, Stark Spidey, they don't play too well with suicides, so I hate changing out my masteries, trying to save units, so yeah, trying to choose regular masteries without any of the suicides here. With Omega, this fight was going pretty good. I got hit twice, so I tried to steal a little bit of regen at the end, and the fight ended okay. But yeah, that one just needs some poison immunity mainly for that fight. Moving on, this one you will need poison immunity and a Fury buff. This is the Caustic Temper node, and I brought Hyperion, my rank 3 Hyperion, and I was thinking he could do it. I was thinking I might have to rank 4 him, but I also thought Ghost could maybe do this. I've never tested this. I've never taken these nodes in map 7 because I didn't think I had a good matchup. So yeah, I brought in Ghost, and this was my first fight in here using Ghost, and it was a little weird because also I don't have Wasp as a 5-star, so I don't have that synergy. And just playing Ghost, watching her phase timer and then watching the no retreat timer had me a little flustered at first, but as you can see, we're doing some pretty crazy damage because we're triggering the poison a lot from the Caustic Tempered node itself. But without an actual Fury buff, we're doing. You can see we're doing 59 damage right now, barely anything. You need the actual Fury buff. The Fury passive on Ghost will not work. So that's why I'm finishing my combos kind of weird, so I can get a Fury right here, and then waiting for him to come at me, and then throw my special 25k, 25k, 34k, some really crazy damage output, and then yeah, 11k medium, and that's from a rank 4 unduped Ghost. So some pretty crazy stuff. This next node is a Gwen pool with Biohazard and Safeguard. This is the one where you need a bleed immune champ. The Safeguard here on this node, I was thinking that'd be pretty annoying, so Omega is pretty much like the perfect counter for this node, because your passive damage over time is just going to do so much, especially with the bleeds, because you'll be able to stack up to 30 spores. You'll pretty much always have a death field active if you have a bleed from the Biohazard on, so yeah. This is just like a perfect storm for Omega. You also have class advantage, but our basic attacks are capped because of the Safeguard. So normally this fight would take like 100 basic attack hits, but with Omega, man, we're at 15 hits right now. Yeah, this fight's over. I'm pretty sure that was the fastest fight in all of 6.1.1 for me. Omega, man, like I said, he's a beast for a lot of fights, especially the immunity needed ones. Now this next one here that was all the needed things that you'll have, but nothing else is truly needed. But Incinerate immunity for this fight is a big help. Void is definitely the best answer to this Mephisto, and you want to hope for some good RNG. I'm pretty sure I restarted this quest on the first run I took at Mephisto with Void, because my first 4 debuffs weren't Petrifies, and on this one my first one was a Petrify, so I already knew this one was going to be much better. And that's what I do for content. That's what I did a lot in Variant. You know, I do a path, and if I have a bad start on the path, I'll just back out and restart the path, because that way I save on items. Like I said, I only used 1 revive throughout this whole quest, and that's definitely, I think, the approach you guys should try to take as well, if you're not going for a Legends run, of course. But yeah, Void makes this fight much easier, because with Mephisto, his Aura Incinerates are giving him power gain, which is super annoying, and this node has Spite on it, which is also super annoying. And with the no retreat, you really got to be careful how you bait out special attacks. It's kind of tricky getting used to it. Right here, I double dash back just out of normal. I evade Mephisto's L2, but then I start taking the degen damage. But as you can see, it's not too bad. It's not like it's going to kill you if you start to fight at a decent threshold. And right here, I have to take the heavy to the face, or I have to dash back, or I have to go in and punish him, which I should have been doing, but normally I don't do that against Mephisto. So yeah, right there, 8th part of the special one. This fight started off so well, now it's kind of going downhill. Yeah, and then he caught me there, which just made things worse, but yeah, it's alright. This fight's over at this point now. But yeah, that fight can go awry pretty quick, but I definitely think a Void is, it's not needed, but highly, highly recommended for that fight. And then one of the other things I highly recommend is a Korg counter for this Korg right here. An Omega Red, one of the best Korg counters in the game. Ghost is also a very good Korg counter. But yeah, I can use Ghost versus Korgs, but I just prefer to use Omega Red. And right here I catch a combo to the face, which wasn't good. Trying to time my heavy attack so I can get off a good degen with some good amount of spores. Right here I get the unblockable. Wasn't really ready for that. I was trying to hit him on the block. And I think, is it right here? No, not here. Coming up, what he does is he just throws his L1 when I'm just holding block, which kind of surprised me a little bit. But right here, evade is L2, but you can't dash back twice when evading it, so you kind of gotta get that timing down, which is a little different than normal. Right here, he's purifying all my debuffs because I don't have enough spores on him. I think it's, I don't know, it's coming up. It's coming up for sure. I definitely go for my L3 though. Oh, it might be right here. Yeah, right here. Oh no, not there. Is coming up, but I definitely throw my L3, try to get some health back. Right here, I don't have too many spores, but I'm looking at my health, I'm like, oh, this is getting kind of bad. Let me get some health back. I also didn't go into this fight with 100%, but you know, I should be able to get this fight down with Omega. Pretty good matchup for Gorgon, and then I think it must have been right here. Or okay, it's coming up, guys. It's coming up. I did this fight a couple of days ago. But yeah, as you can see, kind of block some of the L2, so I don't trigger the no retreat. I'm gonna throw my heavy attack here, and it must be right here. Yeah, there we go. I'm just holding my block, and he throws his L1, and it's unblockable because he had the crowd excitement, which just totally threw me off, man. I was holding my block so he wouldn't throw a special. He just threw it. But we came out of the fight all right, and we didn't need Omega for any other fights on this path. So yeah, just want to be prepared when you find that cord, like Ghost, Magic, Omega Red, all good counters for that guy. And then next up, we are actually fighting an Omega Red, and this guy has Aggression, Regeneration, and Corner. So I put on here a good regeneration counter for, again, it's not needed, but it definitely helps out. This fight kind of reminded me of the map 7 Omega Red, but this guy can actually be reversed, so I should be trying to use that to my advantage. But this is one of the more annoying fights in here because you have to dash back to get those spores off you, or you have to create distance some way to get the spores off you, or Omega Red's spore damage is going to start being crazy. But if you dash back too much, you're going to get the no retreat degen, which is super annoying. So yeah, this fight was one of the more tricky ones in here for sure. Right here, you can see I triggered the degen because I dashed back twice, which I did not mean to do. And yeah, just a lot to manage in this fight, in particular this one and that Mephisto one, because they both kind of have those aspects where you want to back off. But at least with Void on the Mephisto one, you don't have to worry about taking any incinerate damage. And right here when he throws his heavy, again, I either have to take the second part to the face, double dash back, or go in after the first part, and I'm not used to going in after the first part. So yeah, I think at one point I tried to parry, yeah, right there, I think I tried to parry his heavy attack, after I'm like, why did I try to parry that? Like, what? But yeah, this fight, you can see it's kind of tricky. At this point, I'm like, okay, I should just try to let those aggression regens just kind of stack up, but I also need to kind of keep my distance from him so I don't get spores on me, but I also can't keep too much distance or I'm just going to be dashing back too much. So now I'm kind of trying to just let that aggression regeneration kill him. You can see he's taken for like 2,000 now. We've got 5 of them up, got some debuffs, and yeah, then it goes down. I should have been trying to do that more towards the start of the fight. But that's definitely a good way to tackle that one. And then next up here we have a Moon Knight, which was probably the worst fight in all of here. Well, not the worst, it's the most annoying. This is where I say you want some True Strike. And I did this fight with Killmonger once, but it took like 3 minutes. It was a really long clip, so I'm not going to include it. It took a while though. But with Corvus here, I brought the Proximus Synergy to try to get it off. And this is there's a good and bad thing about this fight. First of all, let me just reference the Corvus. So, like I said, I'm not running suicides, so my damage is gimped already. I'm not boosted for any of these fights, so my damage is also gimped with Corvus there. But I'm also not able to build any prior charges to this fight because it's the first fight, one of the first fights in the quest, which it's a good and a bad thing. So for Corvus here, it's a bad thing because, like I said, you can't build up any charges. It can also be a good thing though because, yeah, you can't build charges, but hey, if you have a bad fight, you just back out. It only costs like 3 energy to get here. You can just try again. So there's good upside and a downside to it. And you can see there, I try to bait a special, but I can't dash back 3 times like I normally do to evade it. I gotta dash back, block, dash back, or take another blocked hit. And yeah, at this point I'm looking and I'm like, oh, I'm at 5 charges. He still has 41% left to go, again, because I don't have suicides. So at this point, I think it was this one, yeah. I start to preserve, try to start to preserve my charges a little bit. I got my L2 now ready to fire off. Gonna throw that bad boy. And again, push him to the L2 so I can try to bait that. And yeah, now I'm only going to use light attacks. And right here I ate a combo to the face on accident, but it kind of turned out to be a good thing. As you can see, I'm just throwing little light attacks because I don't want to waste that last charge. I think I was going for my L2. Try to get one more L2 off. And I'm trying to bait this L2 here. As you can see, it's kind of hard. You kind of got to get used to it right here. Sometimes he just doesn't throw it. You just got to parry instead. See, he's just not throwing it. So keep trying to bait it out here. And that's just what you kind of have to do with this node sometimes. And I think I'm also noticing I'm not triggering it on every dashback. I think that's because I have him in the assassin range. I have that mastery on when I'm recording this. So right here, I finally get to my L2, throw it, and he goes down. So I think we threw 3 L2s with only the initial 20 charges. So yeah, that fight's annoying, man. That fight's very annoying. I have to do it like 3 or 4 times. Now next up on the criteria I said you should bring is some auto evasion. That was the last one I mentioned, and yeah, it's for this green goblin one. Can be annoying without any auto evasion, and and also there's a Punisher in here. I'm not sure that one, but that fight can be a little tricky without any auto evasion as well. I believe it's Aggression Fury as well. So yeah, auto evasion in that fight definitely helps out. But you know, Green Goblin, I don't know if you can evade his L1, but if it's possible, you probably need to dash back, and you probably have to trigger degeneration. So yeah, Stark Spidey is just so good. It builds up poise charges. He auto evades all of it, and boom, you can see we're just hitting like a truck on this Green Goblin. He's almost dead. Get to my L2, and yeah, this guy is toast. So yeah, Stark Spidey is just great for there. And yeah, that was really all the main counters I brought up that you're going to want to bring for those specific fights. One more thing I wanted to mention was there's a really cool thing in the quest where there's just tier 2 alpha sitting around on tiles, and you go and you just grab it. There's 3,000 tier 2 alpha right there. There was, I believe, 3 stacks of this in the first quest, which adds up to 9,000 tier 2 alpha fragments. Just a nice little bonus added in there, and I like that. Maybe they could add some chunks of gold, maybe some tier 5 basic fragments, maybe some tier 5 class catalyst fragments in the future of Act 6. But yeah, nice little tidbit I just wanted to throw in there. Alright guys, so just to reiterate and to finish off this video here, so what I found as the most useful champs throughout this quest was the Holy Trinity. Actually really surprised me as being extremely useful throughout this whole quest. I found myself using Blade and Stark Spidey a lot, which really made me glad that I had them, and just brought me back to like about a year ago when the Holy Trinity was what everyone wanted. You know, like it's cool that they're so useful again. So yeah, they put in some great work, which I know a lot of people do have them, which is great. Void put in some solid work, man. I just took my Void to 565, and I was very impressed with what he did. Very solid champion. Corvus, if you're running Corvus, ideally, and by that I mean with Suicide Masteries, maybe with some boost if you're going for a Legends run, he could be very good. For me personally, I didn't even really use my Corvus much at all, just because I didn't want to put on those Suicide Masteries, and without them he doesn't hit that hard without building up a whole bunch of charges, and on most paths you're only going to be able to about get 2, maybe 3 charges. So yeah, Corvus, ideally set up, can definitely be a good way to go. Ghost, also ideally set up, meaning Suicide Masteries along with some synergies, could definitely be pretty good in here, but again, those synergies are kind of hard to get for Ghost. You're going to need a 5 or 6 star Wasp, a Hood, an Ant-Man maybe if you want to go with full-on Ghost. But yeah, even Ghost without her synergies, like I showed my Unduped Frank 4 Ghost, no synergies, took that Caustic Temper AA very handedly, man. She did great work there. Still has some good uses in the quest, for that note at least. Omega Red, he put in some amazing work for me as well. Great for the Korg, great for the poison and the bleed immunities outside of Caustic Temper. Put in some great work, man. Vision, he also did pretty well against any of the fights I need some power control for. The All or Nothing Sentry, he did some good work there. On that Psylocke fight that we showed where the power gain was crazy, he used put in some good power burn damage. I don't have a magic, so I don't know how good she would be in here. I have 4-star magic, but I can't bring her. So yeah, but I assume she'd be pretty good, especially with some of the power control fights. Domino, I do have her, but I didn't bring her in. She's only rank 3, but I assume a 5-star Domino could put in some serious work here, like at rank 5 or a 6-star at rank 2. And also Killmonger. I used Killmonger, like I said, for that Moon Knight fight, and I got it down. It took about 3 minutes. It was a really long fight. He was alright. Actually, he was really good with Void, actually, giving Void the synergy to regen. That's where I found him very useful as a synergy there. But overall, I think he could put in some good work if he's one of your main champions. Now, my negative feedback, let's talk about that. So the 4-star restriction, of course, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, not going to go too much more into that. Like I said, I gave my feedback to BAM. Hopefully they change it. Hopefully it's been changed by the time you're already watching this video. But my main, other than that, my main problem is the energy cost. So there is, I believe it is 10 paths in this first quest, and each tile is 3 energy. Each path roughly was about 60 energy, which let's just call that a refill. Or no, let's not call it a refill. Let's call it almost a refill. But that's going to be about 8 refills per quest. 30 units. What is 8 times 3? That's what, 24. That's going to add up to a lot of units, man. Just on energy alone, which I don't like. So maybe just change the energy cost down to 1 step per tile. I mean, if you're making it harder, lower the energy cost. I mean, Labyrinth of Legends, some of the hardest content in the game, is only 1 energy per tile. I'd like to get back to that. I don't get why the energy has to be so costly, especially when there's so many paths. I really like the energy to change. That's one of my big problems. But yeah, pretty much what I did, I just kind of spaced this out throughout the week. I had granted access to it, just recorded each path when I did it, wait till I had a full energy of that day, and then just kind of did it. I only used about 2 refills when I was really feeling like hitting down a couple of paths. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much going to do it for Act 6, the early release from the Content Creator Program video from me, Lagacy. We did the first quest, 100%. And yeah, there's my main video on it. There's the walkthrough, my guide, my tips and tricks. Let me know what you guys thought. Any feedback is appreciated. If you guys did enjoy it, drop a thumbs up. If you're excited for Act 6 tomorrow, let me know. Should be streaming it at some point tomorrow when you guys are watching this. And yeah, if you did drop a like, if you did like it, drop a like, share it with your alliance. Just show everyone what Act 6 is going to be like. Give them a little taste for it. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you did enjoy, peace.